What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome to my channel. Sunbelt predictions are done. You see your lovely Sunbelt standing board right over here. Again, the Sunbelt East is on the right-hand side, and the Sunbelt West is on the left-hand side. But this is a conference that I've been looking forward to cover all summer. Very, very fun to dive into these teams. These are my projected standings right here with tiebreakers and all. Mainly consist of head-to-head. But our second group of 5 conferences done. Let's recap what we saw here over the past week in Sunbelt predictions. But before we dive into that, I just want to say thank you so much. I know I say it pretty much every video, but I can't say it enough. Thank you so much for the support on the channel over this past summer, over the past 3 years. Never thought the channel would get to the size that it has. I am grateful for all of you guys that have helped grow this channel to the size that is at today. So thank you guys so much. But hey, you can continue to support my channel by, well, you're doing one by watching the video, but you can subscribe, like, comment, share. Anything that you do to interact with the channel helps to support me. I greatly appreciate it a lot. Again, as I said, the Sunbelt East is on the right-hand side, and the Sunbelt West is going to be on the left-hand side. We are going to go bottom to top in each division. We're going to start with the Sunbelt West over there on your left-hand side. We'll move over to the Sunbelt East. And then we'll go ahead and preview maybe a little bit your Sunbelt Championship matchup. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at what we got here. Starting at the bottom with the Arkansas State Red Wolves. The only reason they're at the bottom was because I do have them losing to ULM, which, again, tiebreaker scenario because they have the same conference record. You go to head-to-head, and that is what ULM did. I believe they will be able to beat Arkansas State. But when I take a look at the Red Wolves this year, I see a team that has a coach on the hot seat with Butch Jones, and I see a team that can have a pretty solid offense this year. Again, Corey Rucker comes back. That run game does have to improve. The defense has to improve as well. You got a lot of solid pieces coming back there. Just not a team that I see performing really well in the Sun Belt Conference here in 2023. But again, if you do want to be in a division in the Sun Belt, you want to be in the division that you're in here in the Sun Belt West. Same thing with the University of Louisiana Monroe Warhawks. There's a ton of talent leaving that team from past season. They're going to be really thin at a couple positions, most notably the quarterback position. So it'll be really interesting to see how they get along. But it's a team that has made steps, that has made strides in the past. I just think with all they lost, with some of the top tier talent in the division that they're in this season, I do think that it's going to be a struggling year for the Warhawks. Now, again, if you want a division to navigate, it definitely is this one here. The other division has a lot of very solid teams, can be very competitive. This one here, who knows what happens, but I got Arkansas State and ULM towards the bottom there of that division and towards the bottom of the conference. When I take a look at Texas State, 4-8 to me could be an underwhelming record. G.J. Kinn is coming in, had the most dynamic offense at the FCS level with Incarnate Word, led them to an FCS semifinal game as well last season. And this is the Texas State team that adds a lot of talented transfers. Some come over from Kinn's program in Incarnate Word as well. So guys that are familiar with the system has come in. Lots of Power 5 transfers have come in. Even some former 4-stars out of high school have come in to this program. Texas State is going to be making some jumps in Sun Belt play. It could definitely be this year, although I think it'll take some time for the new system to really set in. Again, that's a very talented team. It's a much improved team. But again, I do think Texas State going to end up falling just short of a bowl game here in 2023. Would it surprise me if they made one? No, not at all. I think that's going to be a very talented team this season with all that they've added, but it might take some time for a head coach to adjust to the FBS level and for his system to really set in there with Texas State. So I got him sitting right there at third to last, or I guess I should say fifth in that division. Fourth in the division, right in the middle of the pack, are the Southern Miss Golden Eagles. Now, the only way that this team, in my opinion at least, is not making a bowl game is just because of how tough their non-conference schedule is. You got some very, very challenging opponents on that non-conference schedule, and your conference schedule doesn't really do you any favors either. You got some tough ones there as well. And again, when you have to play the likes of South Alabama and Troy, who we'll get to later, I think they're two of the best teams in the Sun Belt Conference this season. But when I take a look at Southern Miss this year, yes, 4-8 is going to seem very low. Would it surprise me if this team made a bowl game? No, not at all. I think it's a very talented team. Yeah, you got to break in a couple of new pieces, but Frank Gore is back at the running back position. Frank Gore Jr., I guess I should say. But just because of that non-conference strength, that non-conference schedule, I do see Southern Miss chilling at home during postseason play. here in 2023. So your first bowl game team that I'm talking about here in the Sun Belt Conference are the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. I think that's going to be a very solid team this season. Now, again, it's a team that has been sitting at this point over the past couple of seasons ever since Billy Napier left. But when I take a look at this Louisiana team here, it is a team that I think definitely can make a jump in Sun Belt Conference play. It's a team that I think it's a lot of very nice pieces, some very solid options at the quarterback position. You got some good talent in the running back wide receiver room. Your defense, while I do think there are some things to improve, you got a couple really nice pieces coming back as well. You do lose a lot of names out of that secondary, though. I think Louisiana is going to be another very, very solid team this year. The Raging Cajuns, I think, will go bowling. But again, let's see if Louisiana can take that next step in 2023 back towards being a Sun Belt Conference, a Sun Belt Conference title contender there. But your two teams that I think are bona fide top of maybe the two best teams in the conference, but bona fide top of this division are the Troy Trojans and the South Alabama Jaguars. It's going to come down, in my opinion, to whichever team wins that game that'll go to the Sun Belt Championship, and I think that is South Alabama. I already explained why, but I'll kind of explain why here as well. Troy is a team that won the Sun Belt Conference last year, and while the offense wasn't known to be super dynamic last season, it really, really came along as the season came on, scored a ton of points. The offense was moving in the Sun Belt Championship game last season, and then in their bowl game as well, beat a pretty good team in UTSA, I believe is who they played there in that bowl game last season. So for the Troy Trojans entering 2023, it's about getting back to a Sun Belt Championship game, and it's about winning it again. But with all the pieces they lost on defense, while I still think it's going to be a solid defense, I think with all the offensive pieces that South Alabama returns this year, they're going to be able to get the better of the Troy Trojans this year. South Alabama and Troy, both of which I think are teams that could represent the Group of Five in a New Year's Six bowl game this season. However, South Alabama I have as the slight favorite because they have a lot of returning pieces on defense, but because of what they return on offense. A team that already won 10 games last year is going to be hungry to get to a Sun Belt Conference title game. That's a team I really like. I think they're going to have a dynamic offense. You got a lot of pieces coming back. Quarterback returns, Carter Bradley. There's a lot of great talent in the skill position groupings. So South Alabama and Troy, I think, will fight for that division again this year, but I do believe it is South Alabama coming out on top. Now, as we move ahead to the right side of the standings board, let's talk about the Sun Belt East. As now, we'll take a look at the Old Dominion Monarchs, a team that lost a lot to the portal, a lot of key contributors. Yeah, you do have a lot of depth pieces there, but you also play in a very, very tough division this season. It's going to be a very competitive division as well. So I just see Old Dominion struggling this season after they struggled last year. I think they'll continue to do so here in 2023. But the rest of this division, I think, is absolutely good enough to make a bowl game. We'll start here with the Georgia State Panthers. This team did not have a very good season last year, especially after I thought with everything that was working for them, they might have had a pretty solid season last year. It did not pan out that way. However, Georgia State, I think, has added too much to not get better. There are a lot of Power 5 transfers that are entering that program. You do have a returning quarterback and a lot of other returning weapons as well. So I think Georgia State can have a nice bounce back season and go bowling this year. But again, I do not think they'll be as good as the 5 teams ahead of them. So they sit 6th in this division, although that's still a pretty solid football team there. App State is sitting right here. Appalachian State, normally you see them towards the top of the Sun Belt Conference ranks. However, I think it is going to be a little bit of a struggle for App State this year. It was last season. While I do think they improved that win total from a season ago, I don't know by how much. You are going to be replacing Chase Bryce at quarterback. Cameron Peoples is gone. Granted, Nate Noel is back, and you lose a ton of talent out of the linebacking room. But if the quarterback play happens to really come along and maybe come along fast and play really, really well, you got a very experienced group of wide receivers and some good talent in the defensive front and back four. That is an App State team that could be a lot better off than 7-5 this year, but the end of that schedule is hard. You got some pretty interesting out-of-conference games as well, so I'm pretty confident with 7-5 there, sitting them at 5th in this division. Georgia Southern is here at 8-4. I think that passing attack, as good as it was last year, could be even better this season. You got a lot of returning talent in the wide receiver room, and yes, I know that quarterback is gone. Kyle Van Treese, the former Buffalo Bull. However, Davis Brin is in, a former Tulsa Golden hurricane player, very experienced quarterback, very good arm. He's going to give life to this passing game. The rushing game should still be solid as well, even though Gerald Green is gone. A lot of key pieces back on defense. Georgia Southern, if you want a team that was maybe middle of the road in the Sun Belt Conference last year to explode, maybe get to a conference title game this year, I think Georgia Southern can be that team. However, I do think there are some things that keep them from being top of the mountain, especially some of the guys on that defensive side of the ball needing to step up and play better. But Georgia Southern, an 8-win season, not bad at all. Marshall, I see here at 7-5, 8-4. I could very well see as well, but I think anywhere from 6-6 to 8-4 is where Marshall is going to be this year. So I went ahead and sat them at 7-5. You do have to replace Henry Columby at quarterback, but Cam Fancher was the leading passer for the team last year, and there are some solid other pieces in the quarterback room. You do get some nice returners, even though Kalen LeBourne is gone. Hey, Rasheen Ali, who exploded in 2021, missed a lot of last season. He is coming back to the Marshall Thundering Herd this season. Should be that feature back for this team. You do get some nice returning talent in the wide receiver room. And even though the defense does lose a lot of names and a lot of players in terms of number, what you have coming back in terms of player caliber is huge. A lot of key contributors coming back. Marshall can push for a Sun Belt Conference title game this season. However, I think they fall just short. James Madison, I have sitting up here at second in the division. Kurt Signetti's team did not seem phased at all by the jump from the FCS to the FBS level last season, and I think that's going to continue this year. While James Madison still cannot play for a bowl game, they cannot play for a Sun Belt Conference title. It's a team that ultimately I could see finishing first in this division. I think they are very, very talented. You got a lot of returning pieces on that defense. It's an offense that, yes, has to replace a quarterback. Todd Centeio is gone. However, there is a lot of talent on this James Madison team. I think they're going to be very good, but I do think Coastal Carolina is the best team in this division. I got them at 9-3, 7-1 in conference, and I got them going back to another Sun Belt title game. Grayson McCall is coming back. He's got one of the best skill position groupings in the entire Sun Belt Conference, possibly even the best skill position groupings. That's running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. The offensive line should be good, and when you take a look at that defense as well, it's a defense that, while it might not have its star power after Josiah Stewart transferred over to Michigan. Couldn't think of the program there that he transferred to, but Michigan is where Josiah Stewart is. Again, not a lot of star power names on that defense. However, there are a lot of very good players. I expect it to be a very good defense, and Coastal Carolina, I think, will be going back to a Sun Belt title game, which leads Coastal Carolina and South Alabama here in the Sun Belt title game. Again, we'll give my final prediction on that game later, but you can take one final look at the standings here while I outro this video, but that is the Sun Belt for you there in 2023. We're going to be moving on to the Mountain West next. Oh boy, should be exciting here. The Mountain West is coming over the next about a little bit less than a week. But hey, I hope you guys all enjoyed my coverage of the Sun Belt Conference. Stay tuned if you want to hear me talk about other conferences. And remember, play hard but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys tomorrow when we start the Mountain West. Goodbye.